Freer, who I've worked really closely with over the last 6 to 9 months in terms of the talent plan and the player development framework. Introduced me to one of his colleagues, Adam, and subsequently Mark. We got some really interesting dialogue around changing the culture of coaching, the emphasis of soft skills, and we got into a conversation about some work that they've been doing with Sports England. So it's a great opportunity, and thank you guys for taking the time to be here today to talk to us. So I'm going to hand the floor over now to Mark and Adam.
Okay. Morning everybody, thanks very much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you today. We're going to do a bit of a double act, but we haven't done a lot of rehearsing, so it ends up as a bit of Laurel and Hardy. We do apologise, okay? Just a bit of background. My name's Mark Penny. My background really was a wasted youth in pubs and bars. I ended up being the managing director of Revolution Vodka Bars just up the road in Ashton. I then went into corporate and executive coaching and working with executives and corporate leaders around how they change and what they do to get the maximum performance out of what they do. And for the last 3 or 4 years, through working with Sport Birmingham, I've taken some of those principles into sport, all about the change, personality, soft skills, relationships. So we're going to talk to you about that today. So over to Adam, I think.
As Mike said, my name is Adam. I work for the County Sports Partnership in Birmingham, so we're one of 45. My role at the Sport Birmingham is the workforce manager, and as Mark alluded to, we're really looking at people skills, soft skills, and how that translates into the delivery and the environment we set up, whether it's at a participation level all the way up to potentially elite. So we'll be looking at that and trying to translate that into how we work with our coaches, deliverers, volunteers, and working with Mark, we're trying to take that from theory into practice, which hopefully you'll be able to take some things away today with your working. To start, I just want everyone to raise one hand as high as they can. Everyone just raise one hand as high as they can. Perfect. Okay, right. Now raise it a little bit higher if you can. Try and raise it a little bit higher. Okay, just right. Really interesting there. So we asked you to raise your hand as high as you can. So you would expect that you're trying to reach your potential there and do the best you can. But as soon as I said, could you do a little bit more, everyone just reach a little bit higher and try to reach a little bit higher. That's the space we're working in as coaches. We're trying to get that extra little bit out of our players or participants. And that's why we feel that coaching, if we get the soft skills right, the communication right, the interpersonal skills right, and relationships right, we can get that extra 10, 15, 20% out of our participants along the way.
Watch it, just watch it.
So that little video there sort of highlights some of the work we've been doing with Sport England, UK coaching, looking at control in our coaching. So that example there shows a little bit what Sam and Stuart talked about earlier in terms of time pressures, pressures on you as individual coaches and the people and the time you work with them, potentially results, needing to win, etc., etc., and how if you work in that way, potentially you look at burnout and that idea of participants not having that lifelong interest or love for the game that you guys have alluded to this morning. So we're trying to move away from this and looking, as I said, how we can frame our coaches and our deliverers to be more holistic in our delivery and empower, and we can talk about some of the words that Sam had earlier, empower our participants, whether it is in participation or in the Aspire program you're looking at today.
Click on there. There you go.
So, Sport Birmingham's research, what did we find? Well, in terms of that little video, we did some research which backed this up, which looked at some of the good traits, bad traits, and Some of those on there you may see you do, from a positive or negative, but essentially what we saw there was no matter who the participant is, whether they are looking to be brand new into the sport or if they're doing it for a long time, they're always looking for very similar things along the way. Getting away from dictatorial delivery, getting away from aggressiveness, intimidating delivery, looking at how we can engage and develop a relationship that looks at the participant's journey from inception to lifelong participation. And we found that people who are doing some of this stuff here, or all of this stuff here, are being much more successful in engaging those people, engaging those participants. And then finally, that has resulted in UK coaching changing the way they think about coaching. So putting people at the heart of their coaching, putting athlete-centred or participant-centred approaches into their delivery, and that looking at that whole culture piece, which has been, I guess, a challenge, as you alluded to, and that's how we've been working in the last few years to move forward. Pass over to Mark, who's going to hopefully bring that to life for you.
Okay, so we've talked about where coaching traditionally has been or perceived. Basketball and other areas, I've done a lot of work with the LTA, are trying to move their coaching forward, trying to have this relationship-based coaching, but it's a cultural change, and culture always beats strategy, culture always beats tactics, culture always beats day-to-day delivery. So it's a cultural change, which I think has been alluded to, but it's going to take time. Culture doesn't change in a day, it takes a long time. But culture also starts at the bottom. It starts with 10 people in a room, another 10 people in a room, changing their attitude and changing how they do things, so over time you see results. Now, most sports follow this model in terms of how they get people in to participate until they become elite athletes. It's a talent pathway. You get a load of people at the top, and eventually 2 or 3 or 4 drop out at the bottom who are your elite. That's the age-old model of sport delivery. It's the same pretty much everywhere. And if you look, and I have to refer to my notes here, if you look, the odds on becoming a professional basketball player in the USA, that's where the statistics are from, for women, it's 1 in 13,000. And for men, it's slightly better odds, 1 in 12,000. So imagine all these 12,000 going in and these people dropping down at the bottom. Statistics, though, can be very dangerous. So I'll give you a way that statistics are dangerous. It is actually my birthday today. I don't need, that's very kind of you, I don't need a happy birthday, but it is my birthday today. Genuinely, it's my birthday. Is there anybody else in the room who has the same birthday as me today? Anybody else's birthday is today? Is that a surprise? Is that a surprise? What would you think the odds are of having someone in the room having the same birthday as me?
Something like 1 in 22 or something crazy.
Very good point. The odds of me having the same birthday as someone in the room are probably at least 1 in 365, if not more than that. However, the odds of having 2 people in the room with the same birthday are only about 1 in 70. So it's almost certain that in this room 2 people have the same birthday. And that's because statistics work in weird and wonderful ways. So if you look at this list here of 1 in 12,000 men who make it, the reality is for some people the odds are much shorter, much better, because it depends how tall you are at a certain age. Yeah? It depends on where you went to school. It depends on your attitudes at certain times in your career. It depends on your learning at certain times. It depends on, more and more, the coaching and the people you have coaching you. So actually get the right coach and be coached in the right way, your odds go from 1 in 12,000 down to maybe 1 in 200, 1 in 300. So do not ever forget how important you are at coaches, particularly at the age you are coaching. So that's your talent pathway, and even the way you've got it here. This is a bigger box, this is a smaller box. It shows a pathway, it shows the same funnel model. What's really interesting, and we're not going to talk about it today, we may talk about it another time, is actually all the evidence says that this age group, because of the way the brain develops and the brain works at teenage years, is your best opportunity. Your best opportunity to get the right technical and tactical things, but more importantly, the right attitudes, the right characteristics that you require if you want to get the talented people at the end. Because all the surveys say, when they look at talented athletes, they don't say they're the best technical athletes. They often say they weren't the best technical athletes. But what they do say is they had a variety of different attributes. And those attributes are often what we would label as soft skills. Now, soft skills are all about relationships. We're going to come on about a definition of soft skills, but look at how coaching is changing. Australian Olympic swimming coach Wayne Goldsmith talks about coaching as change, emotional connection. People will forget what you do, what you say, but not how you make them feel. Again, relationships. Another one, our friend Jürgen. A quote by one of his coaches say that Jürgen creates a family. What's a family? It's about often really bad relationships, but sometimes good relationships. He says 30% tactics, 70% team building. Again, relationships. This is Sarah Stone, the head of the WTCA in America. She's the chief executive there. Coaching is much more than teaching how to properly hit a forehand. It's about meaningful relationships. A lot of the work we've been doing with the LTA has been around relationships and getting away from the certification process, which is what we were talking about earlier. Level 1, level 2. It's all about technical stuff, when maybe it should be about building relationships. Final one here from a Dr. Sophie Jowett, who's a famous sports scientist in this area, talks about coaches and athletes should form genuine working relationships. So again, Sam talks earlier about this being a relationship together. It's not coach-centred, athlete-centred, it's working together. So coaching is changing, coaching is change. That's what you're about. You're about change. You're about making change happen. And these are some of the trends that are happening in coaching. The whole person. So actually these breakdowns, this anxiety, these stresses we hear about caused by sport, we're talking about what's going on with the whole person, what's happening with the whole person. Understanding learning and growth is crucial. If you understand how people learn best, if you understand how people grow and develop, especially from a younger age, your coaching will be so much better. So much coaching is about repetition at a young age, and that's because at a young age we're a little bit more open to that. But as we hit teenage, it's all about emotions. It's all about risk. It's all about having fun, taking part. And we need to change our coaching practice accordingly. We're going to talk a little bit about soft skills. We do some work on data and technology, a really interesting area, but today we're going to just talk about soft skills because we've only got a short amount of time. So Sport England coaching. They've gone a little bit further and talked about placing greater emphasis on the so-called soft coaching skills. Yeah? So the view out there is very clear. We've got a big problem in coaching though, especially sport coaching, is people don't like the term soft skills. People don't like particularly any terms around soft skills. But it's absolutely crucial. This is some research by American research by the Carnegie Foundation and Stanford Research. They looked at success, and this isn't in sport, this is in all walks of life, all different commercial areas. And they thought that 85% of success came from well-developed soft skills, and only 15% from your technical skills and knowledge. Now, I agree in all walks of life, particularly in sport, you've got to have good, sound technical skills and knowledge. You've got to know your stuff. You wouldn't want a fireman with the best soft skills in the world turning up at a fire if they didn't know how to put the fire out. So you've got to have technical skills, but then it's the soft skills that develop that. Now, Adam and I have been thinking about that for a long time, because whenever we sit down with a group of coaches, we have coaches saying, oh, it's not the same in my sport, it's more 50-50. Technical skills are really important. It's more 75-15 in my sport. I'm a golf professional, it's all technical. We don't need the soft skills, or only a little bit. We've sort of come to the conclusion that actually it's a little bit more complex than this. And the model, before I get to the model, one of the reasons why soft skills are so hard to define is because they're difficult to measure. And so in business, in sport, in a lot of areas, people say, well, I can't measure it, so I don't want to do it. Was someone here talking about doing some work on measuring resilience? Who was talking about measuring resilience? Difficult to do, isn't it? Really difficult to do. But it's a lot easier to use stats when it comes to how many passes you make, yeah? How many yards you cover. That's easier, so we tend to use that. Soft skills are really difficult to measure. They can be measured, and whenever they are measured, the conclusion is that they can be taught. They can be improved. They are not innate. So here's a model that might help you understand that. We're probably in the right part of the country for this model, actually. It's called the warp and weft model. If you look at any piece of cloth, it's got a warp, threads going one way, and it's got a weft, threads going the other way. If you only have threads going one way, the thing will just unravel. There's no strength to it. And if you think of your technical, your hard skills as the thread going the one way, and your soft skills as the threads going the other way. So if you are trying to teach a particular skill, you will need well-developed soft skills to enable you to do that. You might have to try different ways of doing it. You might have to try different communication tactics. You might have to ask different questions. They're the soft skills that allow you to deliver that technical skill. So it's a combination. When we talk to the LTA, they use a tennis racket as their example. The strings on a tennis racket are the soft skills going one way and the technical skills, the hard skills going the other way. Think of a basketball hoop with a net coming down. Technical skills, soft skills. Really important that the two marry together if you're going to be an effective coach. One of the paradigm we quite like, the builder and the gardener. If you were going to create a fantastic garden, a landscape garden, you might have to put foundations in. You might have to build beds. You might have to make sure all the basics are covered, the drainage. You could see those as your technical skills. Without those technical foundations, things don't grow properly. Things are difficult. The gardener bit is actually the adaptability. What happens when things go wrong? What happens when things fail? That's when your gardener bit comes in. How do you nurture people? How do you grow people? How do you support people? So you could think of soft skills as builder and gardener and combining the two together. Am I making any sense at all, or everybody looking at me like I'm mad? Normal response I get at home. Right. So here's a soft skills framework that we have tended to use. This is not the only soft skills framework you can use, it's just the one we tend to use because we think language, I think like Sam mentioned earlier, is so important. A common language means you actually get a common result, a common output. So we talk about independent soft skills, creative soft skills, reflective soft skills, and team soft skills. So within there, we talked earlier a lot about an independent athlete. There's some of the skills for independence. We talk about creativity in sport, reflecting on what you've done and how you can improve, and then working with other people. So that's 16 competencies we tend to measure. Often when we measure this in sport, we use these as our areas of competency and which we assess against, yeah, or evidence against. So it's a framework that you can develop soft skills from. And it's the framework that we found works relatively well because the language is simple. The language can be understood by both player and it can be understood by coach. Just look at this. Oh, we're going to show you a video and then we'll ask you the next question. Yeah. I think the video straight away. Okay. Go on.
So, just to move it on a little bit, talking about effective coaching and interesting, I've got no doubt Stuart was saying this morning about the performance elite and potential dropout, and we see often young children coming in with some talent, with some skill, and when I speak to Mark and talk about his kids, if they're not framed in the right way, then they drop out because either other things become more important or the environment they're in doesn't suit them. So that's from soft skills. If not right, we look at the participation drop-off and going for someone who enjoys it, is good at it, and then actually along the way other things come up in their life or the way that that environment is set up doesn't necessarily work for them. What I was also interested in effective coaching though is how we use the soft skills to create an environment that bring up some of these skills. So creativeness, adaptability, imagination, or in this case obviously on the court. You may well have seen the video we're going to show in a second. But what we're going to do is watch that video, and then what I want to consider is how we can create an environment where that can happen, where the video which happens there, you can create that in your delivery. So we just show you.
There's no sound, but you don't need it. You'll see what happens. Can anyone describe what that video, what's actually happened on that video? Can you tell me what's actually happened? Anybody know? Sorry, go on.
They were down, and then if they scored 2, they probably would have lost the game, so they missed on purpose.
Perfect. So the only way to win this game was to miss on the second shot on purpose, therefore be able to do I don't know your sport. The three-pointer, that's it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so for 30 seconds, just people actually wanted to look at considering that framework, which Mark will put back
I'll
up.
put back on, yeah.
Just wanted to consider how you might frame or develop a session or deliver a session that allows a participant in the moment, as we talked about earlier, and Sam mentioned earlier, in the moment, can think for themselves to make a decision where they're going to deliberately miss a shot for the good of the team, knowing that if that goes wrong, they're going to lose the game. So just 30 seconds to a minute, talking into next year how you might put that into your session.
And if you can use this language on the screen, that would help. You got anybody to talk to, Sam?
Say again?
Haven't you got anybody to talk to?
Talk to these.
Anyway, I just want to say, really enjoyed your stuff earlier.
And I'm
Brilliant.
liking this.
Really brilliant.
I missed your name at the beginning.
Mark Penny, yeah. Really enjoyed it. It's so nice to hear, because we go around so many sports and you feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall, and to hear people actually thinking, same as you is brilliant. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Just look at the framework.
Yeah.
And then we don't have a soft skills framework as such, but some of that language is actually in.
It is in your
detail under the
exactly. Yeah. And it's about what we tend to do is, I'll mention in a moment, but when you look at what makes an elite athlete, surprise, it's all that. And then you think, well, if a coach isn't the role model of that, the elite athlete can't follow that. So it's about almost marrying the two together, which is difficult. But and I agree with these guys. It's difficult when you've got 3 minutes.
Yes.
But maybe you have to come from this point of view first.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone want to quickly share some of the ideas they might have had? Just leave a couple of little bit of feedback. Anyone come up with an idea of how they might implement that or try and do that?
Come on, guys, don't be shy. Remember, it's my birthday. It is my birthday.
Talking about creating scenarios where young people are able to build their resilience, certain situations. Set up, they're down moments ago, 8 points down. What are you going to do in those situations? It doesn't have to be coach there. They can huddle, they talk about it, decide how they're going to solve the problem in that situation.
Spot on. Yeah, good. Anybody else?
In competitive drills in practice, ask the players to keep score, have a visible time so that they're thinking about how much time's left in the drill and how many points they need, and they're accountable for knowing the time and score at all times.
Yeah, good.
Who said that problem solving has to be, to develop problem solving, it doesn't always have to be game-led.
True.
So, who says you have to?
Yeah, well, absolutely true. Yeah, a lot of the activities we do are away from the sports field to show how you problem solve. Yeah, to take back on. Yeah, do that quite a lot with football. Go on.
You just saw there where the players took command of the game.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, a coach would have called a time out there.
Yes. Yeah. Understand that. Yeah.
Also, it's kind of like building the whole team's confidence, because you will have players in that moment
Yeah.
where they didn't want to take that free throw,
Yeah.
and they have to step up and take it. So you kind of need to make sure that they're all confident in that moment, that they know that they can make
Okay.
it.
So you've got to build these things, haven't you? Responsibility, respect, and things like that within the team. Somebody saying something over here? Yes. Sir. Okay, so quite. So that's about this self-awareness and understanding your strengths and your weaknesses. Yeah.
I think as well, giving a player belief, letting them know that you believe in them. And I think that happens before game situations. So in practice, having conversations. People who mentioned before about questioning and things like that, giving them a sense of belief that we're backing you, we believe in you, allows them in those types of moments, they feel a bit more confident to take on.
Yes, I agree with that. It's funny, I can't say I've. You carry on, yes.
I think one of the words that's missing off the framework is accountability.
Okay.
Because I think in a team setting, if each person's accountable and
Yeah.
they hold each other accountable,
Yeah.
they can come together and make decisions like that without the coach. But if everyone knows maybe knows their responsibilities, but who's going to be accountable for that?
Yeah, okay. So I'd argue that accountability would probably be within a subset of these, but it's something that's worth mentioning. Thank you for that. Thank you for your feedback. I was just going to say one more thing about this. I do in my job executive coaching and now coaching sports people in who are at an elite level, and I've been amazed at how many of those individuals suffer from stress and anxiety born out of fear of failure, fear to lose. If I do this, I'm going to lose. And when I didn't work, but when you hear about what happened to the England football team we heard earlier, Gareth Southgate, who recently won Coach of the Year, said he spent most of his time working with them about getting rid of the fear of failure, allowing them to say, if you fail, you fail, but it's better to go out and try and win and play well and do your best. The two things he works on, fear of failure and relationships with the media. He spent more time doing that. He said we spent very little time actually doing technical work. They're good players. Yeah, we had a plan, but other than that, it was those two things. Somebody was asking a question up there. Yeah.
Do you think that the education system has a part to play in that as well, rather than just doing it on the basketball coaching side of things? I know we're here for the basketball side, but we've got 4,000 to 6,000 people, these kids to try and...
Yeah. What's your name, sorry? Tom. Yeah. Tom, I've worked in education for the last 10 years, okay? And basketball coaching is no different from other sports. We have the same issues. And I absolutely agree with you that so many of these skills are not taught in schools anymore because the curriculum's been shrunk down. Often, sport would be the place within school where they could be taught. Sport, maybe drama and extracurricular stuff, they've been squeezed, so more and more you're getting young people into sport, as are other sports, that struggle with this. And we have a problem in elite sport in the UK if we're going to get to the levels we need to, if we want people to grow with these skills. And they will only succeed if they have these skills. Name all the top players in any sport and you'll name these skills. Yeah, okay, they've got to be technically great. They've got to be all the other things. But what makes a difference will be these areas. Yeah. Any more questions before we have the last activity? It is an activity. Last activity, no? Okay. Adam.
Oh, yeah. So
do you want to pass me one ball?
Catch your approach, good stuff. So, really simple, two groups. We're just going to give the ball to the person on the front of the rope. And all we have to do is I want you to get the ball to the back row with everybody touching it.
Okay, competition. Whoever gets about 3, 2, 1, pass the ball, go.
Come on. Hurry up.
Touch it.
Close. Come on. Very well done. Just there. Okay. Would you mind rolling them down the aisle? Can you pass the ball down? Thanks. Okay. I heard that, Adam. Did someone say let's go again? Right, okay. You have 30 seconds, no longer. It's a very big group. That's tough. To think about how you're going to get it done quicker. We're going to give you 30 seconds. You might have to shout at each other. You need to lead. Come on. Have to start at the same time. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Use your time effectively. Oh, they're standing up. They're standing up over there. Oh, we're standing up over here. We're starting here. Right, I'll wait.
It's going to be here.
Oh, right, okay. Hang on. Right. No, you give them the ball. Right. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, yeah. Right, roll the balls back. Thank you. Thank you. Should have filmed it. Okay, thank you. I'll feedback that. Just a very, very quick activity at the end there. What were the skills you had to use to accomplish a task and get better at it?
Communicate.
So, no, it was better technique, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it? Was it? What did you have to do?
Communicate.
Communicate, problem solve, what else? Get creative. Oh, I saw some great leadership somewhere.
Reflect on what we did previously.
Reflect on what you did previously. What else?
Be imaginative.
Had to come up with imaginative ideas. Now, if we'd have given you a bit more time, you'd have got that down from, we didn't time you, but I've done this activity with groups of people, young people, older people, and if you start introducing things like, well, we were with a group of coaches last week and they didn't half your time, what would have happened to you in the room?
Determined, focused.
Determination goes up, focus goes up. What were we doing by putting time pressure on you, saying you've got 30 seconds, a minute? What were we doing?
Adding pressure.
Adding pressure, getting you to think under pressure. So there's loads of things you can do away from the court and basketball to help develop these skills if you have the language. Adam and I play a game often with balls. You can use basketballs, you can have whatever balls you want. How many balls are flying round a circle? Get young people particularly to think things through, to understand what they're doing, because they will need those skills later on. Few final takeaways. Try and reframe your coaching if you can. Sam said it, start with the why. Why are we doing this? Why am I doing this drill? What does this team need, or this player need, for this coaching session to work? Too often we start with the what. What am I doing? I love YouTube. I love the drills you can see on there. Again, being a tennis player, I love all the tennis stuff you can get on there. Absolutely amazing. On a Friday night coaching session, I don't need to think of anything because all these drills are amazing. Players don't need it though, but I'm enjoying doing the drill. Problem with YouTube and the amount of drills online now is we've got all the drills in the world, but we stop to think about the why we're doing it. Why are we doing it? What are we trying to achieve? What skill, what soft skill, what mental skill, what emotional skill are we trying to gain from it? Then the how, and what I don't mean here is the drill. I mean the how are you going to deliver it? What soft skills might you need? What organisation do you need? What communication do you need? What questions do you need to ask? Yeah? Who else do you need to involve? Do other parts of a team need to support you in different aspects? That's the how. The soft skills is the how it's done. The final bit, the what, is the technical stuff, yeah? The drill, what you're trying to achieve there. I'm not saying any of these areas are more important than another, but go in that order. Don't start with that and then think, oh, well, how about this bit? Start with, why am I doing this? Yeah? Why am I doing this? Final quote for you. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Yeah, all the time. Adam, anything else to add? Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. We'll be over.